I'm now speaking with Fred Osheskie, candidate for mayor of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Fred, welcome to our show here. Let me ask you, first thing here, why are you seeking the nomination for mayor of Fort Wayne?
I'm seeking the nomination of mayor for Fort Wayne because I see a need for good quality leadership. The Henry administration and council have done things wrong for years and years. I had a political career over Ohio that spanned 8 years. I was on council, I was council president, and I served as mayor. And I had a very successful tenure at a small town over in Ohio called Waynesfield. And I moved to Tennessee and spent about 8 years doing nothing but volunteer work. I worked at a food pantry, thrift store. I worked at soup kitchens twice a week, and I served on the Ministerial Alliance Temporary Shelter on the executive board. I also served on the executive board for Habitat for Humanity. Along with that Habitat for Humanity executive board, I was also a person that trained the new homeowners how to take care of their electrical and their plumbing. Being an engineer, I was very familiar with all of the things that one has to do to repair a home that you have without having to pay exorbitant fees to plumbers and electricians.
You said a whole lot right there. You know, what is it specifically that you were disappointed with the Mayor Henry administration?
Mayor Henry is just out there to get money for his friends and for his families. He has done so many things to help those individuals, and there are more storefronts that he is proposing to build downtown. If you go over and look at Parkview Field, there are 7 vacant fronts down there. That place has been down there for about 6 years, and there are still no businesses in everything down there. There's only 2 businesses in there. There's a bar, and then there's the bank, and that's it. Now, to waste the light fund to encourage building of more retail stores downtown when they already have vacant ones, why create something that is not going to bring any money back? That light fund should be used for dire emergencies, not frittered away to help individuals get rich.
You know, once you become mayor, what will be the first changes you will make, or what directions will you go in?
The first thing I will do is I will dissolve the job of public safety director. Then I will look at replacing or not the police chief. I will interview the police chief, and I will interview other candidates who are interested in that position. And I will make a decision whether or not to retain the police chief or to send somebody else to take his place. He has done a good job and probably has the inside track to retaining his job. The death rate in Fort Wayne has decreased, and I would like to see it even go lower. I would like to see police on the streets walking, getting to know individuals. There are certain areas of town where people will not answer their door when you knock. I was down on Paulding Road trying to put out posters when I ran 4 years ago. And there were individuals that were in their houses that did not answer the door. And that's a shame. If you cannot be safe in your own home, there's something very wrong. And a police presence down in certain areas would greatly improve the quality of life of those individuals. Another thing that I want to look at is getting grants to improve low to moderate income family homes. There are money that we spend on our IRS taxes that go to Washington that come back. But if we do not apply for them, when I was mayor over in Ohio, well, I was actually a council president when I applied for my first grant. And it was for a grant to build a iron filtration system for the plant and for the city, and to rehab houses of low to moderate income families. And I got the grant. Everybody told me I wouldn't. They said that a small town like I was mayor of could not administrate the funds properly. Well, I twisted every arm that there was out there, and I got the grant on the very first try. And we built the iron filtration system. It was fabulous. We rehabbed, I think, about 45 homes. And you had to wait a year before you could apply a second time. Well, the new rounds were coming up, so I went down to Columbus, and every one of the people who was working there greeted me with open arms and asked me, is Waynesfield getting back into the program? Because other places took the money and could not spend it. They didn't spend it right. We spent every penny. Not only did we spend every penny on the first grant, we got a grant from Farmers Home to do more rehabs. And we got a second grant and did all rehabs. They were all rehabs. These things are important to the low to moderate income people. They can't afford to put new roofs on them, their houses. Everything that was done in that program brought the houses up to standards as far as codes go. Then, if there was any money left over, then they could get nice stuff like vinyl siding on the house. The majority of the houses were able to get new roofs and new siding on them. And I'm very proud of that. It was the first time that Auglaize County had a grant. This was in 1994. It was the first time since 1954 that Auglaize County got a grant. The county commissioners followed my lead, and the other towns followed the lead that I had. I showed them the way to get grants, and they started doing that for the rest of the county.
You know, where did this type of tenacious energy, when did you first realize you had that kind of spirit within you to go and get things done?
Well, I have always been a leader. And I was in high school taking sociology and economics, and we had a debate over gubernatorial candidates. And I was debating a girl that was in my class. And after the debate, my teacher, Mr. Moray, told me, he said, "You make a good politician." I was only 17 years old. Little did he know what take my path of life would take me to. But he saw something in me. He saw the leadership quality that I had. I was in the Navy. I was a section leader in the Navy, and I was a leading shop PO in the calibration lab. And I have always had a pressing desire to do better than anyone else. My father was abusive to me. He verbally told me that I would never ever amount to anything, that I could not do anything right. And for over 50 years, I've been proving the man wrong. People would wonder how I could do the stuff that I did. It is just common sense and following the steps that are there. I did things over in Ohio that had never been done in the entire state the whole time that it had been a state. We had an ODOT depot that we stored our cold patch and grit at. And ODOT was trying to get rid of it. Nobody would buy it because it was on a garbage dump that had been filled in. And I persuaded ODOT to donate that parcel of land to it. That building would have cost us $90,000 to build something that was not anywhere near the substantial building that we had. And it took a while because they had to go all the way to the Attorney General of the state of Ohio, because no governmental agency in the state of Ohio had ever given any other governmental agency anything. It just wasn't done until I stepped forward and asked. I think outside the box. I don't want to have all of the money that people pay in property tax used if there are ways that we can find grants and other things to do with. I would like to see a 10% cut on all departments. When elected, I will get in touch with all the department heads, and I will have
Budgetary or personnel?
No, not personnel, no. Monetary. 10%. There is so many things out there that are wasted. I want a lean, mean government. I want the same services, but I want them to look in a mirror and see where they themselves can find ways to save money.
You know, you mentioned that you have an engineering background. Is there any way that an engineering background can be a direct asset for a person working in a political arena?
Very definitely. My engineering background gives me the knowledge to know what is a good price on it. I actually engineered paving projects in a town. My brother-in-law was county engineer. He was actually the engineer for the town. And I figured out, I had my maintenance superintendent go out and measure the amount that we were going to do, and then I got facts about what the cost was for it. And I took it to Doug. He put a stamp on it, we put it out for bids, and it came right what I estimated, and got it done. And you look down on Superior Street at Wells and Fairfield, my God, they spent $2.5 million there. There is not $2.5 million worth of improvements made there. Where did all of that money go? I cannot believe that they could spend that much money to make a roundabout. And they had a nice pine tree in there, but then they took the pine tree out, and I understand Mayor Henry wants to have a statue put down there at the roundabout instead of a nice pine tree.
Well, I guess from what I've been told, I think it might be a statue of William Wells, perhaps. I'm not sure about that.
What is?
William Wells, perhaps. I heard a little bit about the statue. One person told me that it might be a statue of William Wells, his wife, whose name was Sweet Breeze, and she was a daughter of Chief Little Turtle. It might be them three.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I heard different ideas about what's going to be put down there, but that's part of Fort Wayne history to an extent. But tell me something. You know, right now we have a movement for inclusion in the city. I think a couple years back, Southside High School had over 70 languages being spoken there. Yes, they were one of the most diverse schools in the nation at that time. When you create an inclusion program around the newer ethnic groups here and the newer types of people that are here, and ignore the people who have been excluded historically, you would think that it might fail. What I'm getting at is, when you create an inclusive movement, how do you put it in context of the people who've been disenfranchised and excluded over the years? What is the benefit of bringing, in this case specifically, the Indians? You know, this is Indiana. No Indians around here. Nobody sees any Indians anymore. And the Indiana Constitution basically said that they didn't want blacks here. So when you create an inclusion movement today with the newer ethnic groups, how do you avoid, I mean, the other groups have been forgotten, except for the new guys that's here today. What is the total benefit do you see of it, of putting today's inclusion in a historic context to not forget the ones that were excluded?
Well, the Constitution of the United States said we're all created equal. And I will treat people in that manner. There is no difference between somebody that works and is at the poverty level and somebody that's a multi-millionaire and makes tens of thousands of dollars a day. There is no difference between any of us. We are all the same. Mitch Harper said that he wanted to get in touch with the common people. I am one of the common people, and I have been in touch with those people all my life. Down in Tennessee, there were people that lived out in the mountains in abandoned school buses with no electricity and no water. Those people are just as good as the richest person in Fort Wayne. There's no difference. God sees no difference in us, and I see no difference in anyone else. We are all equal, and I will do everything that I can to help disenfranchised groups be part of the revitalization of the city of Fort Wayne.
You know, for people who are unfamiliar with you and they're meeting you for the first time, what do you want to tell them about yourself as to why you'd be the mayoral choice that they should make?
Well, not only having my experience throughout my life of different variety of things that I have seen, I also graduated from Ohio State in a seminar for basic economic development. And I know what it takes to do what is needed to bring new business here, to create jobs by expansion. But most important, there are three things in economic development. Economic development is the creation of wealth. Now, there's three ways that you do that. The first thing that you do is you retain businesses. The second thing that you do is you expand them, and the third is you create. Now, I will work with everybody on economic development. I remember when Mayor Henry was trying to get Harvester to stay here, and he was totally over his head. He didn't have the slightest idea how to deal with them. I have been educated in that. I know how to, and I will do that. I will try to get all of the businesses to stay here, and the very least, get them to expand. Professionals in economic development consider themselves lucky if they can create one new business in their entire professional career. Is that outstanding? That is the truth. They feel that they have accomplished something when they get into big industry to another city. I'll try to get as many as I can. I don't intend to just have one term. I want to have 2 terms, and then let somebody else take the reins and follow in the tracks that I have set in the sand.
Fred, thank you very much. Good luck with the candidacy. Awesome handshake there. What do you do? How did you get hands like that?
From my dad. My father worked in a coal mine, and Eric, his hands were so, his fingers were bigger than yours, and we used to always grip. I do it with my boys. I got 2 boys, well, Fred's about 325, Frank's about 270, and we try to grip each other's hand to see who will give up. At one time, Frank actually hurt my hand, and I wondered, what the heck's going on here? And what it was, he wasn't allowing me to put my finger and thumb all the way in, and he was actually gripping on my knuckles instead of coming right up against it.
Wow.
But my dad broke a guy's finger. he would go up against guys and put like this. And he broke a guy's finger doing that. He was a strong man. He loaded 40 cars of coal, and there was a ton. He had loaded 40 cars on his hands and knees down in a 30-inch vein of coal
Where is this?
in western Pennsylvania.
This is where you're from.
Yeah.
So growing up in that, I didn't know that. And with that being your background, and having your father who was like that, how has that influenced you today, especially as you, as you go around here breaking people's hands, shaking them?
Well, the first impression I get from a person is their handshake. And my dad told me that whenever you show somebody's hand, you give them a firm handshake to show that you are sincerely wanting to meet them. And I have had other, we're not with this one, are we?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was
Oh,
gonna
yes.
say,
This is part of you.
oh, okay. My dad was a tough old son of a gun. And he made me tough. I am tenacious just like a bulldog. If I see something out there that needs to be done, I will do everything in my power to get it done.
Okay. Well, Fred, I think that after you leave here today, I'll go get my hand x-rayed. But thank you for being here. And thank you all for watching.